Next presentation by Jennifer Conda. I hope I managed to pronounce this name at least. On Philippine native trees, please.
So, okay, I will proceed. So I will like to share my paper presentation, Philippine Native Trees, the raw materials for century-old wood structure, Ecclesiastical Museum collection, and immovable woodcrafts in selected churches in Bohol. So this is a collaborative project with the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, which aims to store structural materials in historical churches in the Philippines, specifically in Bohol provinces. This is to use the original materials for the restoration project. So this is the outline. So for the introduction, background, and then the historical churches images. For the methodology, how we do the wood identification. And for the results, we have provided the list of Philippine native tree species and the strength grouping, and also the museum collection and some of the wood structures, and then discussion on the physical and mechanical properties of wood. And then last is the conclusion and recommendation. So this is the map of the Bohol region in the Philippines, wherein when you see the highlighted with a circle red highlighted the red circles, we have there the places or project areas wherein we can see the different churches in Bohol. And these are the images. First is the Immaculate Conception Parish, Tambaclayon, and then St. Paul, the Apostle Parish in Nabanga, St. Isidore, the Farmer Parish in Tubigon, the Holy Trinity Parish in Laway, and lastly, Our Lady of Assumption Parish in Dawis. So for the wood identification of damaged images, we have conducted here the initial wood identification in the church step. And then with the assistance of the curator, we search or we look for the cross-section of the different structures. And also we try to locate in which part of the saints or the structure is the cross-section. And then for the final wood ID, we took the macro photographs of the cross-section and bring it for the final identification in the FPRDI Sailarium facilities. The problems that we have encountered during the collection of gathering of data is the location of the cross-section in the structures, wherein some of the cross-section are found in the feet of the saints, and sometimes in the roof. We have difficulties in getting the macro photographs when we are looking for the cross-section of the ceilings. Yeah. And then for the list of the Philippine native tree species that would use for the structural wood structure and the collection and immovable woodcrafts in the several churches in Bohol, we have there the different family and the scientific names of the tree species that we have identified. Also included here are the strength groupings or the class. And the class or grouping is based on the publication of Marina and Bondad way back on 2010, wherein there is a strength grouping of Philippine timbers for various uses. And for the wood identification, we have used as reference materials the Wood Identification Handbook of Philippine Timbers, Volume 1 and 2. So after gathering the data, we have here the list. For the Dipterocarpaceae, we have 5 species there that belonging to Dipterocarpus and Shorea species. And we have specifically identified some species of Shorea almond and Shorea palasatis. So if you can see, there are different grouping strengths. So the grouping strength is based on the class. When we say class 1, they have characterized it for having high strength, wherein we can use it for heavy construction, wherein strength and durability is required. Sometimes when the wood is under high strength, it can be used for railway or post or high-grade beams or balusters. And when you classify other species in class 2, there is a moderately high strength, wherein it is used for medium or heavy constructions like heavy furnitures. When you classify as class 3 is medium strength, which is used for medium construction like panels and locos, beams, and floorings. And when you are classified this as class 4, yung moderately low strength, which is we can use this wood for wood carving, sculpture, furnitures, and palette. And for class 5, we have their class 5, yung Melia acederacta. It has a low strength, or it is only used for like construction, like moldings, core of veneers. Yan. So here yung Ebenasi, we have Camagong group just under Jospirus SP, which is classified for class 2, and it is commercial. When we say commercial, it is readily available in the market. Yan. And then another species that we have observed is the Pterocarpus indicus, which is a very prominent tree species here and a very high valuable trees. Also is under Lauraceae elixea species. These species are used in wood carvings in our here in Laguna in Paite because of some of the macroanatomical properties, which I will discuss later. Another species is the Melastomataceae, and then Melia from the and then Bagalunga, Melia acederacta. Other is Myrtaceae, the Syzygium species, and then the Pometia pinnata. And under Sapotaceae, we have the Colloquium, and under Verbenaceae, the Vitex parviflora. So other three species that were used in the restoration of structures and collections are mahogany or the Cytenia macrophylla, which is classified as lesser known and under the class 3, which is medium strength. Other species are Pinaceae, the pin species, which is also lesser known. We have identified Artocarpus blancoi, commercial also, and Sandoricum coetjape. This is a plantation species, and also Leucaena leucocephala. This is under class 2, which has a moderately high strength, and this is identified as plantation species. Okay. So this is the picture of Nara Pterocarpus indicus, and we have here some of the macro anatomical shots on this left side, right side. This is the shot of a cross section of the images, the image, this cross image here. This is the macro shot, and the other image here is from the handbook. So we use the handbook for the identification of the species, and we based on the spores, and then the parenchyma, and also the color. When we speak of Nara, this is a medium to large trees with a yellowish wood. The texture are moderately fine to moderately coarse, and it is moderately hard and heavy. So I can identify Nara for having a ring porus, which is a large pores of rings, and the presence of pupil marks. So when we identify some of the structures, we see the antique priest chairs is made up of Nara, and other wooden chairs are made up also of Nara. Okay, another species that we have observed is Malawi, Vitex parviflora. So Vitex is under class 2 with moderately high strength. It has a light yellowish brown hardwood and cross and slightly wavy grains, very fine to fine texture. It is hard and heavy, and you can see there are a lot of tyloses or profuse tyloses that is occluding the pores. So this species is limited in secondary forest, and when we observe like this one, the ceiling, this is the sample of when we do the data collection in the ceiling of baptistery. We have here different structural materials that are made up of Malabe. Actually, out of the 560 species that 560 structures that we have identified, 186 pieces of them are made up of Malave. And this include trusses, the bell holder, and the roofing, the pulpit, the pew arms, some candlesticks, plug pole stand, the station of the cross. Another species that we have observed, and this is commonly identified in the pews, yung mga pews armrest, and between the decors, we have identified Insta by Juga, and Raphcelia rhomboidea, and Symphalatenda densiflora. So these are Fabaceae species. Ayan. Okay, so when we identify these species, they belong sa Tyndall order of Rhomboidea as a high strength species, while Ipil and Insabayjuga and Sympatalandra has a second or moderately high strength species. So most of them, the color ranges from light brown or orange to yellowish, and it has a moderately fine texture, and they are hard and heavy. When you see, as you can see, when this group of species have a paratracheal parenchyma, they are usually aliform and confluent. So the Instabayjuga, we observe it in crucifix and buffet table, and that the Raphcelia rhomboidea, some of them are observed in sofa. So this one baticoline group, or let's say SP, most of the species that we have observed are structures that we have observed made up of baticoline trees or wood, are patrons, and sometimes you observe it in a Bible stand and crucifix. So one of the macro characteristics or micro characteristics of this species, the wood are golden yellow with moderately fine to moderately cross, and they are glossy. There is a presence of oil cells. These oil cells are specific characteristics of this baticoline groups, or let's say a species group, which help it to easily curve, because when you curve the species, it is smooth. It is very smooth and easily to curve. Other species are Dipterocarpus. Other species are Dipterocarpus and Shorea group. So, this species, when we do the cross section of an altar piece, we identify them as Dipterocarpus species. They are under medium strength to high strength woods with a reddish brown heartwoods and moderately coarse texture. They are also hard and heavy, and also possessing a paratactile parenchyma. So the sealing of baptistry in some of the structures, the altar piece, the choir loaf, and the Holy Bible are made up of this species. Okay. Another species that we observe is the Syzygium species, and the altar piece and the designs are made up of this group, Syzygium species. This Myrtaceae and Syzygium species is under class 2 with moderately high strength. They are reddish brown. They have reddish brown heartwood and moderately fine texture. They are hard and heavy, and also they possess pinkish deposit. Okay, so we have also observed Swietenia species, the mahogany, in some of the pulpit. Okay, so when we talk with the curator, we are wondering why they are using mahogany species, or is that the original materials that were used in making the structures or the materials. But the problem is that the National Historical Commission has also or have previously done restoration, and with the implementation of PD 705 in the Philippines, which is banning the collection or harvesting of timber species, native timber species in primary and secondary forest, they have no option but to use plantation species or mga invasive species as an alternative materials for the original one. And also, we find some pinus species in the crucifix. We can easily identify pine for this because pines have a medium strength, and their grain are straight, and they have moderately coarse texture. They have irregular growth rings, and also they are glossy. They range from moderately heavy to heavy. So yun, they have, and what is unique with this Pinus species is they have resin canals, which is not available in some species, Philippine native species. So for the conclusion and recommendation, we can say that restoration of historical churches using Philippine native trees is better than using introduced and invasive. We have to publish information material and craft policy brief, maybe on using Philippine trees as restoration materials. We also need to strengthen Philippine laws against illegal logging and to promote propagation and planting of native trees to maintain the cultural heritage of the Philippines. So, yun. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm happy that despite the technical difficulties, we managed to get through the presentation. Unfortunately, because of these difficulties, we have no time for questions now. So if you have any questions to this presentation, then please write them into the chat section, and I'm sure Jennifer will be happy to answer.